So, we're off on another ride. Another nice day. A little cool though, I must say. It's about, I guess 70 degrees or so. But we're comfortable. We should have a nice ride. And we're heading out of the community again. Right now we're in PAS 3, gear 5. It's what I stay in typically. Seems to give you 15 miles an hour when the battery's completely charged, and maybe 14 or so when the battery's down a little bit, as it provides a lower voltage to the motor, hence you get a little less power, a little less speed, but that's fine. So we're out of the community, getting back on Colbert. Waiting for a lot of traffic. Thanks. All right. Now we're heading north, and I think we're going to try to get out to the beach today, go up to Marineland or so, but may not. Depends how I feel. The sun isn't heating me up as much as it has on other days. But it's a little bit cool today. Alright, I'm going to switch over to PAS 4 and increase my speed, get up to gear 6. Riding the e-bike has really helped me strengthen my legs. As I mentioned earlier in a different video, I had been riding quite a bit on my 21 speed Mongoose, and I guess slowly weaned off of that and wasn't riding it anymore. And now with the electric bike, I'm back to riding as many days as I can, probably 4 to 5 days per week, some days less, weeks less. Presently doing about 19 miles an hour, 18 to 19, and that's nice in PAS 4 in gear 6. Now when I first started riding the e-bike, I couldn't do that. My legs were still weakened from bouts of illness, which I had, and I think you know which one it was. It starts with a C and ends with a D, and has all capital letters in it. So I got over that, but the weakness prevailed for about 2 months, and slowly I've been building up my leg muscles again with this e-bike. Now I had the illness back in April. It's been quite a while, but still, that prevented me from riding my regular bike. And now getting there again, feeling good, and I can ride faster pedaling with a little bit of assist. Now doing that, you take fewer watts from the battery as you ride. Currently I'm doing about 250 watts from the battery, and if I lower that down to, yeah, it actually goes below 200 at times, so that's not very much. But if I put it in Power Assist 3, then I'd be pulling maybe 95 watts to 150 watts, maybe. And that's what gives you the longer distance in Power Assist 3. You're using less power from the battery as you pedal, because you pedal. We have one of those days here in Florida where there's not a cloud in the sky, and you get those often in periods of days or a week, and then it gets a little cloudy. But most times in Florida, the clouds dissipate, or you have a partly cloudy day, and rarely, seems like more often lately, you'll have a day that has all clouds, the way it was up north when we lived up northeast, and that was kind of how it was up there through the winter, except for a few nice days like today. But here in Florida, it's just the opposite. You have mostly beautiful days, no clouds, partly clouds, and very few days of that overcast gray. We've done about 2 miles already. Time passes quickly when you're having fun, and e-bikes are absolutely fun. I'll be having to pass a biker up here. I did put some acetone spray on my brake pads and got a lot of that squeal away. Some of it's still there. On your left. Thank you. Have a good day. I'm riding on the new Cloud 9 seat, and it's absolutely delightfully comfortable. I don't have a shock absorber post on the seat. I could get one, but it would raise the seat up a little higher, and I don't really think I need that. And with this Cloud 9 seat, I don't need it at all. It's absolutely comfortable. Also, I've gone to carrying in my utility bag a can of Fix-It in case I do get a flat, and a portable air pump, which I took off my 21-speed bike and put it in my bag on this bike. So if I do have a flat, I think I should be able to fill it enough to get to a place I can fix the tire or change it out. But so far so good. No problems, and there's not too much wear on the tires. I've gone over 300 miles now, according to the odometer. Though I must say, when I received the bike, it had a few miles on it. Now, Heybike claims you'll have about 1.5 miles on it, but as I remember, I had more than that on the bike. So for whatever reason it was, but I've gone at least 260 or 75 miles of the 300, maybe more. Maybe now it's actually, I've gone 300 miles of the 300 and something that's on the odometer. Passing another couple of communities on this road. I must say, riding on the trails and the sidewalks and the roads in Florida is always scenic and beautiful, just the way it is here. Sometimes you look at other YouTubers and they're just on local streets and towns and things, but here we have quite a lot of trails and stuff. Now, I haven't gone on too many trails because they're made of compacted shell and sand, and they're very easy to ride on, especially with the 2.5-inch tires that the Heybike Cityrun has. But it does get your bike dusty. And you have to clean it all the time. So I'm preferring to ride on the sidewalks and the roads and less dusty surfaces. But soon I will go on the trails and show you how beautiful they are. Now, I've just built a new trail and a bridge that goes over a very busy road down here. A road that goes to the beach, and that's almost completed. So we have a big trail that goes from this road in 7 miles to Route 1, and then in between those 2 points they have a road that heads south and goes over this bridge, and I'm not quite sure where it ends up, but they're intending to put 100 miles of trails in the county I live in. We're coming up to a place where I need to stop and cross over the one road and then cross over a second road. Okay, have to go over first. From here we're going to go to a linear park that will take us to the bridge that crosses the intracoastal. And by the way, that is intracoastal, not intercoastal. Intra means between, and since the intracoastal goes through many states, the proper term is intracoastal waterway. Sometimes it's a river that is flowing along, and that becomes the intracoastal, and then they built canals that connected to the next river down. All right, we're getting up to the path here. It's called the St. Joe's Walkway. And there it is, St. Joe's Walkway. And we'll make a turn. Have to watch it there. I guess the brakes are still squealing a bit, huh? Oh well. Next I'll resort to a little sandpaper, and after that I'll replace them. But the pads are not that old, so I think it's just a matter of fixing them. I did switch down to gear 5. I am in PAS 3. Traveling about 15 miles an hour. See a lot of pines in this area, and oaks, laurel and live oak. A lot of palmetto bushes, palm trees. Palm trees, as I understand it, are not native to Florida. Palmetto bushes are, but the palm trees are not. And they were all brought in years and years and years ago, and now they're pretty much all over Florida. They have varieties that can withstand the colder temperatures up here. We just had a period of 3 nights of below freezing weather in the 20s, and that killed many of my bushes outside. It killed some bird of paradise I have there. A lot of the leaves are now dead, and my angel trumpet, Hawaiian ties, all of that. But not so bad. They'll grow back. That's the beauty of Florida. And if they don't grow back for any reason, just replace them. This is the path that takes us to the bridge. We're in the what they call a linear park, and there are some buildings in here and businesses and things too, but it's the green area between the directions of the road. So on one side of the linear park you have eastbound, on the other side of the linear area you have the westbound. And right now we're going on the heading east towards the bridge in the ocean, and you'll see this ends right about where the bridge is, and that's coming up. Very nice going on these paths. Very little traffic from walkers and bicyclists. I got it. So what we're going to do is head here across the street and then get on the bike lane that goes over the bridge, and we'll be on the island, and that area is called Hammock, because it's not an island really. It's connected on both ends, but it has water on both sides of it. Okay, so we'll cross here. Nobody coming, we'll cross here. Now we can get on the bike path that goes over the bridge. A little toll booth they have there, you can see. But that toll booth is very interesting. This bridge has always charged a toll since they built it. It's a newer bridge of the couple of bridges we have in the area. And they've always charged a toll. So people complained about it and said, you know, we're residents here. We go over this bridge for work multiple times a day. We go to the beach, fishing, whatever we're doing, going along the A1A up to St. Augustine, and we're paying a $2 toll, only one direction, mind you, free the other way. So they said, if you open an account and you put $20 in the account, we'll add the equivalent of $60 more. So you have $80 in your account. So when you pay the toll, you're really only paying for paying amount of 50 cents per one-way toll, and that's nice. So we are in Gear 4, PAS 3, and we're easily, as you can see, getting up this bridge. I'll put it in 5. We're doing about 15 miles an hour getting up that bridge, which I thought was pretty good. Nice day. Now I'll put it in gear 6. Took about almost 20 miles an hour. There it is. Very nice. Now there's a little cutoff here, which I haven't seen in the past, and you need to take that to get back on the sidewalk and then continue, because the bike path just ends here, and you can see it dwindles down to nothing. Be able to cross the street here. A little tricky there, but courteous drivers here in Florida, and they were nice enough to hold up for me. Now back in gear 5, doing 16 miles an hour. Very smooth sidewalk here. Nice and curvy too. Now coming up, we're going to get to the stop sign for A1A, and then we'll cross over and get on the sidewalk heading north on A1A, which is taking us where we need to go. There is a bike path out there. I don't know if I trust it so much, but we'll see how bumpy this sidewalk is. Not too bad. So we're on the a feature called the hammock. It has water on both sides, the Atlantic Ocean to my right, which is east, and to my left, the Intracoastal Waterway. And this goes on for about 20 miles or so, or more, until you hit an inlet called Matanzas Inlet. And Mantanzas Inlet is the place where the intracoastal and the ocean meet, and it refreshes the water. And I'll tell you two things. One, the water goes through that area, the inlet, so fast it creates waves. Really a race, they call it. It's quite something to see. Very good fishing, by the way. There's always lots of people up there fishing. And the second thing about the intracoastal is that when high tide is at a point in the ocean between the outlets or inlets to the intracoastal and the intracoastal, it's probably 6 hours difference, maybe 4 to 6 hours difference between the high tide. So the tide is already going down in the Atlantic, or it's still coming up in the Intracoastal. Now, as I said, the rivers that feed the Intracoastal and actually become part of it for a length, St. John's, Matanzas, forget the other ones, Halifax rivers. And there are a lot of estuaries that are west of it, and you'll find that there are fish in there in abundance that never see the ocean. Snook, drum, sheephead, trout, all sorts of fish. I'm going to try going on this bike path, see if I can do it. But I am going to put it in PAS 4 because I want a little more speed. Now back almost to 19 miles an hour, and gear 5 in PAS 4. So it does shorten your trips a bit. You just have to rely on the cars behind you not drifting out of their lane. Now when I pedal this e-bike, oh, by the way, there's a great restaurant there called Roadie's. Excellent food. We just passed that. I had a sandwich there. I think it was pastrami or a Reuben. I think it was a Reuben, and it was like New York. You know, in New York City, you get some of the finest Reubens, and that was equal to it. There is a restaurant we're going to go to up by Marineland, and that's our destination. Or I may just continue to that inlet I talked to you about, the Matanzas Inlet. Depends how I feel. By the way, here's another good restaurant on the left, JT's. Real good fish food restaurant. Has Menorcan chowder as its specialty soup, and a lot of fine fish sandwiches and fish dinners. Traveled about 7.5 miles from our starting point. There's some debris in the road. Okay, no cars coming. I have no idea what that was. Big truck. Look, he was courteous enough to give me a wide berth, but he did kick up some sand from the road or something. Today's trip will be about 30 miles, but I may stop short of that and do something around 24 miles. We'll see. So far so good, feel good. There are a couple of nice parks off to my right. The sidewalk curves in and out of some greenery, trees and things, and it comes back out again. But there's a park up here. It's called Mia Compra, and it goes into the woods deeply, and it's more like a mountain bike road, but I've done it on my regular bicycle a couple of times. It's a lot of fun. I don't think we'll do it today though. I like traveling in Power Assist 4 just so I get a little more speed. I can keep it in gear 5 and get good exercise on my legs, and shorten the trip. Not that I need to shorten it. This is my activity for the day, so I'll enjoy it. The new seat is very comfortable, by the way, now that I've done 8.5 miles. Although I do shift my weight, as I think is a good practice to do on any bike, bicycle, e-bike, because it allows a better blood flow in your can, so to speak, and that makes it less irritable, less uncomfortable. Sometimes you get a little pain there, and if you just move your position on a seat a little and raise your can above it, everything is better. No matter how comfortable the seat is, that's always a good practice, I find. I don't know if you can hear me with all this traffic on this road. A1A is a very busy road. They're building more and more developments in this area, and I'm sure everywhere else, but in this area especially. And these roads are getting much busier. By the way, on our left is Bing's Landing. And Bing's Landing's a little park in there. And they have a restaurant called Captain's Barbecue. And I'll tell you, that's the best barbecue in this area. There are a couple other barbecue places like Woody's, and I can't remember the other one offhand, big chain. They're okay, but if you want good barbecue, Captain's Barbecue in Bing's Landing on A1A in the hammock, really good. We just passed another good restaurant called 386. A fella named Frank from Long Island, New York, about 9 years ago or so, maybe 10, opened up a restaurant here with really delicious food. Only drawback, it's a little noisy in there. So many times we eat outside. They have a little walled off area toward the parking lot. Now when I say parking lot here, we're talking about a sand and gravel lot. We're not talking about an asphalt lot. So it's nice out there, and we've eaten out there a couple times and enjoyed it. That's 386 in the hammock. I don't like it when the bike lane is between the turn lane and the road. It's not too bad. You just have to be careful. I guess that's true anytime you ride any vehicle. Car, truck, bicycle, motorcycle. There's always that potential of danger. off to my right, there are communities that used to be completely covered over with trees and greenery, and are really like houses in a park. And then we had Hurricane Matthew. Well, Hurricane Matthew drove the salt water in so far, it killed all of those trees. And up forward, you'll see it killed the trees even across this road. It was amazing. Now they have what looks to be a typical beach community with low vegetation. But I suspect it'll grow back. Just take a number of years. You can see here with the wind and the cars coming out of these communities put sand on the path, on the road. Now, let's see, how will I get around this fellow? Now there's no cars coming, so I think I can just stay on the path here. Oh, he moved. Here's the area where much of the vegetation was killed. I don't know if I can show you that so much. If I turn a little bit, and off to my left, this is where Hurricane Matthew drove the salt water in, and to many of the living things here, salt water will kill them. Now, some palm trees survived and palmetto bushes survived. But you can look. There's a park here, by the way, Washington Oaks Garden State Park. I just want to show you how dead this is. Can you see all that? All that in there was killed by Matthew, and it hasn't come back yet. And that's Washington Oaks State Park. The story there is that George Washington's nephew came down here and built this beautiful house in that area and lived here for a number of years. Hence the name Washington Oaks. It's a state park. There are only 2 state parks in Florida that don't charge a fee. National parks, you can get a pass when you're a certain age, 65 or something, and you pay $10, and then for the rest of your life you can bring yourself and a carload of people into the park. Or if you're walking, yourself and 3 other people into the park, no charge. On the state parks, though, you have to pay. And the only 2 state parks that are free, one of which is the, what's it called? Well, I can't remember it. If I remember it, I'll let you know later. But there's only 2 that are free. They don't charge much, $5 or something, but it's still a fee. I was actually in 6th gear, which is amazing, considering I'm going up a slight hill, and no problem. Now I'm in 5th and PAS 4. These are the tallest condos in the north part from the hammock. The 3 buildings here, and my brother stayed in one of the buildings, the furthest one down, and he had a great time. He was here for about a month and enjoyed being here. Beautiful view of the ocean, nice walks. We would come up and stay with them, and we'd have dinners together, go out, visit places. And that was just before COVID hit, and he cut his vacation a bit short because he wanted to get home before there were any restrictions flying or driving with COVID. So he did that. To the left, they're building many houses, and they're all wooden frame houses. Now, it's always been my understanding in Florida that you'd like to get cinder block, and the cinder block, the 3 lowest courses or rows of cinder block is filled with concrete, so that the hollow inside the cinder block is solid and you wouldn't get any termites crawling up the inside of those. They also have pest tubes, and my house has this, and the pest tubes put insecticide in all the different walls of your home. There must be 8 or 10 tubes, and every 3 months they do that, and that keeps any bugs from coming in your house via the walls, which is nice. But these houses are all wooden frame houses, and you know and I know that termites are a problem, and termites do exist in abundance in Florida. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Now, I have seen other wooden structures that are many years old, and they've survived hurricanes and storms and all sorts of things, but we'll see. Okay, we're almost 12 miles into the trip, and we should be approaching Marineland fairly soon. And I'll probably stop there and take a water break. I mean, drinking water break, and then proceed on if I am up to it. If not, I'll just head back. Maybe I'll even grab some lunch. They have a very nice bus, a blue bus up there, or purple bus, that is a lunch wagon, and the food is very different, delicious, and the drinks are different, like guava and other type of drinks. They have regular drinks too, but it's kind of enjoyable to try something different. So if they're open today, I may just stop there and have lunch, or just rest a bit, drink some water, and be on my way either further north to Matanzas Inlet, or just head back. There it is, 12 miles. I'll have to wipe the bike down, because anytime you're near the ocean and you have a breeze coming in from the ocean, it deposits little particles of salt on your bike, and it's always good at that point to wash it down, clean it up somehow. And here's Marineland. You see the sign there? Welcome to Marineland. This is the original Marineland. And there was a show starring Lloyd Bridges called Sea Hunt. And a lot of those scenes were filmed here. And also a show you may remember was called Flipper. And a lot of the scenes were filmed here. They have dolphins. I think there's about 20 dolphins here, a number of shark tanks and other things, some exhibits. The nice thing about Marineland is that you can swim at the dolphins if you want. About $200 used to be, and you can swim at the dolphins. And if you don't want to do that, you can go underground, and they have large glass windows which let you see the dolphins swimming underground. there's a trail there called River to the Sea, and it when they say river, they're talking about the Intracoastal, which is a river in this area, and then it goes to the sea. I haven't been on that park, but one day I may just do it. All right, let's pull in here. They're there, and they seem to be open. Let me grab some water, and we will continue this in a moment. Okay, that was a nice break. Got off the bike a little, and now we are going to head north to Matanzas Inlet. It's another 14 minutes, they say, by bicycle. So maybe it'll be about 10 minutes for me to get up there. Back on the bike trail. You can see on the right the sand dunes they built and grass plugs they put in to preserve this area, and that's because of Hurricane Matthew wiped this area out, and this road was completely underwater. And on the right there, I hope you can see it, I'll try to turn, that's the Intercoastal. You can see it's very close to the ocean in this area. So the ocean to the Intracoastal here is only about, I don't know, 500 yards, maybe about 500 yards, maybe less even. And that's very interesting. It's that close. And of course it does touch it up at the inlet we'll be stopping at. Cruising in Gear 5 and PAS 4, we should be able to get up this hill pretty easily. It's a little hill to a bridge. No problem at all. We're cruising at about 17 miles an hour up this bridge incline. Now here's a little bridge that goes over a body of water. Must be high tide because it's full, but I don't believe it breaks through to the ocean. Let me look. Apparently at high tide, it actually reaches the ocean. And that's fairly new. That used to be full of water, sand rather, after Matthew, and I think the Corps of Engineers dug it out. So there's another place that the intercoastal touches the ocean. But I don't think there's a lot of movement in that area. It looks rather shallow. And I would think at low tide, it doesn't connect at all. So now on my left, you can see the intercoastal, I hope. And I don't know if that's the Matanzas River still or another river. The bike lane they've added or enhanced on A1A is terrific. Years ago when I was riding my pedal bike, it wasn't that good and you had to use the sidewalk in many places. So we're cruising along about 18 miles an hour. Pedal assist. I am getting a good workout. Now we'll ease it up a little bit here. Beautiful here. See the beaches over there? I don't know if you can see them or not. Very nice. Lots of parking here. Parking is free. And right up ahead is the Mantanzas Inlet. When we get up here, I am going to switch to a different memory card. I'm using a 32 gig and I have a couple of those. And today, Amazon will be delivering a couple of 64 gig. And a 64 gig should be enough for an individual ride. The price of these micro SD cards is really reduced. Now, is this the Matanzas? No, this isn't. I made another error. Don't make many, but I make a couple. This is another bridge that goes over from the intercoastal into this little area where these houses are. And I see too now at high tide, this also connects to the ocean, but very shallow. Very, very shallow. But I guess it does allow interchange of water. So that's the second one. And the Matanzas is the big one. And that is coming up now. So nice to be cruising along at 18 miles an hour to get someplace on a bicycle. And I have been able to do that, but not to sustain it on my 21 speed. But the little extra battery assist really helps. Makes it a lot more enjoyable. And you get good exercise. As I said, I've seen my legs come back to being strong again. And right ahead of us there is the Mantanzas Inlet Bridge. I'll see if I can't stop and show you. sidewalk here, what there is of it. Although I don't know if I can. So there is the Atlantic Ocean. And I hope you're seeing this. The shrimp boats out there, if you can see the little white dots. And this is the inlet here. We'll go on the other side. And this is the intracoastal side of the inlet. There's lots of people fishing. So that's where the ocean and the intracoastal meet. Well, okay, we've changed the battery in the GoPro, and we're on our way back to our starting point. So now we're heading south. I think I may stop here and change the position of my camera. Do that. Okay. Seems like it's pretty level. And we're on the way again. Okay. Get up to speed. So this trip will be a bit over 30 miles, and that's the longest trip I've taken on my Cityrun to date. The furthest I've gone was over 50 miles and still had lots of battery left. Now in PAS3, as I mentioned previously, or in another video, I don't remember, I did 75 miles pedaling in PAS3. So there's no problem with the battery. It is a 750 watt, 15 ampere hour battery. And this bike has a 500 watt motor, which is perfectly fine for me. As you can see, I'm mostly doing roads, sidewalks, trails, boardwalks, and paths, which I will be doing shortly to show you the path along the intercoastal and under some bridges. Another beautiful bike ride. Wanted to check there a moment that my Map My Ride program was automatically resumed. I didn't hit the resume button, but it senses your movement and starts tracking you again. Heybike has in their application for the Cityrun a mapping program, but I have yet to figure out how to get it to work. And I guess since I use the Map My Ride on my phone, it really doesn't matter. But I think I'll go put my head down to the grindstone, as they say, and figure out how to make that work as well. Pretty good app, by the way. No real problems with it. It turns your controller on and it turns your controller off. It tells you your speed. It gives you a choice of how many watts you're pulling from the battery at any particular time, an odometer, and a distance meter. It also tells you how long you've been on the bike, and it says I've been traveling for about an hour. And it tells you the voltage to the motor. It starts out at about 53, 52, 6, up in that area when you're fully charged. And right now I'm down to about 48.9. But I've just now gone 1 bar down on the battery. And my Heybike app also tells you the battery condition. And if I can get to it, here it is. It said the battery's at 94%. So, considering I've done 17 miles and I'm at 94%, and most of it I've done in PAS4, which drains more power from the battery, that's pretty good. I think I was about to tell you that I added 2 things to my carry bag on the carrier in the back of the bike above the rear wheel. I added a fix-a-flat can and also a portable air pump. And that's pretty cool. So if I do have a problem, I can hopefully take care of it and get home. I believe I told you this before, but now you heard it again. Heading up the bridge at over 17 miles an hour. I can tilt and show you that beautiful water at high tide. It just glistens, and at low tide a lot of the sandbars appear, especially up at Matanzas Inlet on the north side of the inlet, and many people will bathe there all day until the tide comes back, and they have like a private little beach to themselves. Actually, there's quite a few people that go on each sandbar. Very nice. Fellow there with a camera taking some photos. Beautiful area for photography. When you think you've taken pictures of everything, from the beaches to the parks, the sky, the panoramas, the housing, manatees, all of that, you grab your camera and then you see a space launch. And I can see a space launch from my house. I saw one last night. Very nice. So there's always something to photograph in Florida, in this area especially. Now right ahead of us you can see, I think that's a paraglider, I'm not sure. It's got a wing and it's a motorized fan blade behind him. So he powers himself along rather than relying on the wind. And they'll take off from the beaches here and they'll go for miles and miles down the coast. Really enjoy themselves. You can see the cars get a little bit close here, but in this section there is no sidewalk and you have to go on the bike lane. Now we're coming back to Marineland, and we've traveled 18 miles so far. There he is. Yep. little motorized wing that you sit in, and something I think I'd like to try one day, but we'll see. Marineland was purchased recently, I believe, by the University of Georgia, and on the right here they have research facilities, and they do quite a bit of research, as well as maintain the tanks and the dolphins and things. And also they have kayaks that you can rent here and go into all the little estuaries and areas along the west side of the Intracoastal, and they have lots of oyster beds in there and teeming with fish and other wildlife, and they give you quite a nice tour. We did it a few years ago for our anniversary, my wife and I's anniversary, and really enjoyed it. It was a tandem canoe, so tandem kayak, so I helped propel it along, and she felt a little safer. Matter of fact, when I ride the motorcycle, my wife rides behind me, and she really enjoys it. And she said, I don't know why I trust you, but I do. And we've ridden together, I don't know, maybe 50,000 miles. I certainly have ridden the motorcycle over 100,000 miles in the 3 different bikes I've owned. I had a Honda, no, a Kawasaki. I think it was a KZ 450 or KZ 650, one of the two. And then I had a Kawasaki Vulcan Classic, like a cruiser. That was a great bike. I decided to sell it because somebody had passed away in our development, and they said, would you like to buy his bike? It was a Harley Davidson Street Glide with a big Road King package and other things, and I jumped at the chance and bought it, and I've been riding that ever since, although lately I haven't been riding it. I'm either going to start riding it again or I'll sell it. I just wanted to see how I felt on this e-bike, and if that kind of satisfied my urge. Of course, I also own a Mustang convertible, and that's kind of nice to drive as well. In this area you can have the top down 12 months a year if the weather's nice. Even in the winter you get beautiful days like today, where it can be high 60s up to the 80s, and that's really enjoyable to drive around with the top down. So if the Mustang and my e-bike satisfy my desire for wind in my face, then I'll probably go sell the motorcycle. But here's the big but, capital B-U-T, but when you get on that motorcycle, it sounds so nice with Reinhardt tune pipes and a big old engine. It's just a pleasure to ride and to listen to. It is the epitome of motorcycle riding, I think. Big old trunk in the back and 2 hard side bags. Nice windshield. It's a metallic red, a dark red and black combination. Beautiful bike. If anybody is interested in something like that, it is the 2010 with just about, I'm thinking 36,000 miles on it, which is really nothing. It's just been tuned up and worked on. It's in top condition. Absolutely. If anybody's interested in that bike and make me a good enough offer, you might convince me to sell it. Okay, now we're going up another incline here. I'm glad I changed the memory card It said I had about 46 minutes left, I believe. I'm just getting back to using my GoPro. Haven't used it in a while. But I changed out the memory so I can make sure I have a complete ride. The last ride I did, I only had the one memory card and it did run out of memory and I cut the ride short. So what I'll do one day is retrace my steps and complete the ride and add it to that video. You know, the sun is just the right angle and it may be putting a little glare into this video. I'll have to see when I get back home. The road changes rather to a 2-lane in each direction for this short little bit of an area, and I think they did that because of these condos, but it allows people that have been itching to pass and couldn't to pass. Well, we've just done 20 miles. Oh, a little bit to go. You don't mind taking rides like this. It's just a pleasure to be out here on this bike. It's, you know, you're not looking forward to stopping many times. You just want to keep going. And one day what I'm going to do is take my charger with me and I'm going to charge the battery when I stop somewhere, and I'm going to actually make a trip across the state. I don't know if I'll go with my wife or not. She's a game rider. She has a bike just like mine. Mine is in green and her Heybike Cityrun is in orange. Otherwise, they're identical bikes. We are in the midst of changing her seat as well, and I think she'll probably like this Cloud 9, and then they'll be just about identical. But she's a game rider. She follows me and she loves to go down the bridges fast and go anywhere I want to go. She has no complaints about doing it, and she's enjoying being on her own bike, where as with the motorcycle, she always rode behind me on the bike, you know, in the seat on the same bike. Just beautiful out today. It's cool enough that I have a thin jacket on that zipped up, and on top of that I have the GoPro, and I'm just comfortable. I don't have any gloves on, and I'm riding in sandals with a pair of light dungarees. Pretty good. Today's the 11th of January. Not bad at all. I had to look at my watch. Sometimes when you're retired down here, you can forget the date and even the day. And we're passing Washington Oaks again. If you can see that flag with the red X on it, that's the original state flag. That was the Spanish flag in Florida years and years ago, and you see that everywhere. I don't know if it's the official state flag. I believe it is now, but it is a copy of the Spanish flag that was flown here very early on. St. Augustine is over 450 years in continuous occupation. So there have been people living there for over 450 years. It must be 455 or 60 years now. 65. I have to look it up. I don't know. But they call it America's oldest city. Now Jamestown actually was established earlier, but of course it's a community that failed, where St. Augustine never failed. It always has been lived in. Many different people. It was Spanish and French, then Spanish and French, and finally the Americans bought it, and it's been in American hands ever since. But over the course of the years, the Menorcans, which are Greek folk, came up from New Smyrna, which is still is a big Greek settlement around here, and they came up to St. Augustine because they needed protection. It was either a time when, I don't know, the French were around or somebody was around that was endangering them, and they were welcomed to St. Augustine. And a lot of the buildings you see in St. Augustine now are the buildings that the Menorcans built a few hundred years ago. Maybe a couple hundred years, something like that. If you haven't been to St. Augustine, it's certainly worth the trip. It's a lot of history, a lot of things to do, a lot of restaurants, good restaurants too, and of course many, many things to buy. See, one thing about a motorcycle, you don't get the exercise that you get in a bike or on a bike. And it's a lot of fun, but I'll tell you, this exercise it's worth its weight in gold. My knees ache a little, but I'll feel much better the next few days, and I'm really getting back to where I was before I had that illness in April. Okay, we're back in the hammock area. Very nice out here. There are a number of different Floridas. You have the retirement Florida, and that's where I am from. You have the tourist Florida. People come to visit and go mostly to the tourist spots and help pay for the expense of our state. We don't have any state income tax here, and that's nice when you're retired. And then you have Old Florida. Now, Old Florida is broken up into a number of places. Old, like in antiquity, and Old Florida is the way that people are living there the way they did before tourist Florida began, and retirement Florida began. And just a few miles away, or even here, there are homes that are just off this road, and when you look at them, they've been there 100 years. Now that car was very close to me, within a foot or so. Maybe a couple feet, but it looked close. Now here's Bing's Landing again, and there's the sign for the barbecue. Let's see if we can get over there. Can you see that sign for the barbecue? Yeah, it also has the tackle shop, and this sand is fun to go on. I guess you saw it in the recording. I was sliding a little bit, but the 2.5-inch wheels keep me going pretty well. If you want to traverse soft sand like that, you really should get a bike with 4-inch wheels. battery's gone 2 bars down, and we're at 93%. So I don't know which is more accurate, the app that says I'm at 93% or the bar which says I'm 2 bars down. But for whatever matters, we have a lot of power still, and we're traveling at about 17 miles an hour, which is great. Busy road today for a Wednesday, but this is the main north-south road in the hammock area that goes way south past Daytona Beach and way north above St. Augustine. If you actually look at a map at A1A, you may have to head inland a little bit to continue on it and come back out. There are some inlets like the Matanzas Inlet where there's not a bridge going over the inlet, so you have to head inland a little bit and then come back out to A1A. But A1A goes all the way, I believe, to Miami, and certainly probably all the way up the coast, maybe as far as Maine, I don't know. But in this area, it's a main road and it's only 2 lanes and it's heavily trafficked. Glad they have these nice bike lanes. All right, we've done 23 miles. We're still cruising at about 17 plus miles an hour. PAS 4 and gear 5. Just so you know, comment, I don't ghost pedal. I'm always pushing, so I'm actually assisting the pedaling, and the motor is just assisting my pedaling and it's not taking over. And very rarely do I use the throttle. I may use it when I stop at a stop sign or traffic light and help me get up to speed, and then I pedal again. Makes it a little faster and sometimes a little easier getting across a road. So that's why you have an e-bike. Why not? Huh? Why not? Okay. There's a little place I used to go to. Used to be Hammock Wine and Cheese. I don't know what it is now, but something. And I just used a little throttle to get myself back up to speed as I stopped pedaling to look at that place. Okay. Readjusting my position on the seat. JT's again, Seafood Shack, and a nice gardening place, the Hammock Gardens. A lot of nice plants in there. really good quality. They charge a little more, but it's very nice quality stuff. We have a few places around: Naturescape, Vertigo, and the Hammock. If you only had smell-o-vision, you can see people have fireplaces on, and every once in a while you get that wonderful whiff of smoke. Very nice. See how close he is to the line? You really have to watch yourself here. Even with a bike lane, people drift to this line very often. This bike does have turn signals on it, which makes it very convenient to let people know behind you what you're intending to do. But I also use hand signals just in case they're not looking too closely. Now we're coming up to a place called Varn Park. And Varn Park's just a little park. And my friends and I go fishing there. One fellow goes there every Tuesday, right before sunrise. And he's there with 3 or 4 of his other friends, and they just sit and watch the sunrise. And if they catch something, good. If they don't, okay. I go there and I've caught whiting, and I've caught catfish. I think I had 1 shark. I've been looking for pompano, but I think I passed the season. I started to do other things besides fish. As I said, my legs were getting weaker, and it was tough getting up that sand, the little incline to get back to the parking lot. So I decided I would hold off on that, and now I feel I can probably return to it. See, I have to make a left here. Exactly how to traverse this. Okay, well, that turned out better than I thought it might. Actually, it was pretty easy. When drivers in Florida see you, for the most part, almost always, they're courteous and give right of way to bike riders, bicyclists. And they do that because I think they're courteous people to start with, but they also may be bike riders themselves, and they appreciate the courtesy. Nice path, nice little sidewalk. Now I have to see how to get up this bridge on this side. And I think there's also a bike lane here. I don't know if there is or not. We'll give it a whirl. You have to go on that side. See it? You go on that side of the sidewalk and you take the cut that we took in the other direction, and that brings you on to this. Okay, I'll know for next time. There's always something new to learn. Traveling up around 16 miles an hour in gear 4, PAS 4. Now gear 5. (17), gear 6, miles an hour, 19, gear 7, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. That was fun. Got it up almost to 28. 27.8 miles an hour. Now, we'll head on the sidewalk here. Okay. Every once in a while on this Heybike, the power assist stops, and it just stopped there, and you need to go into the app, turn it off and on again, and you're perfectly fine. But I'll have to ask them why that seems to happen. long as you turn it off and turn it on again, you're fine. Now we're riding along Palm Coast Parkway. East-west road in the area. And this will take us to the street, the road that'll take us back to our starting point. So far, 26.7 miles. Not too shabby. Still only 2 bars down. And the app says I have 85% battery. Waiting for a light now. Can you see the traffic? Yeah, it's quite a lot of traffic here. But I'm sure the light will change pretty quickly. There it goes. And there's the St. Joe's walkway that we took to get to the bridge. There's different ways to get to the bridge. That was a good bump. Actually, I raised myself up because I knew the bump was coming. There comes another one. Not as bad. We just crossed over the road because the sidewalk is on the west side of this road. And we just came from the sidewalk that was on the east side of the road. When we first moved here over 10 years ago, this was much less traveled, much less crowded. And there I used my throttle to get me across the road, and now just pedaling with assist. Again, on this road, the bike path is quite narrow, and it's probably safe to say better to be on the sidewalk here. Well, I must say that was an enjoyable ride. Very nice getting up to the Matanzas Inlet, back again, stopping at Marineland, and heading back here to where I live. Here's another trail that we'll be going down in future videos. The northern trail that heads west for about 4 or 5 miles. And the other trail, the Lehigh Trail, is off this road south of us a few miles. And it goes 7 miles. I may have mentioned this before. And they're just building a new trail that heads south from that trail and across a pedestrian bridge that goes over the busy east-west roadway parallel to the one we were just on. And I don't know how far south it goes from there, but we will do a video, and that should be interesting. Traveling again at 17 miles an hour. So the battery is 2/3 down. I'm sorry, 1/3 down. 1/3 down, and it still says I have 83%. That's pretty good after almost 30 miles. In Power Assist 4. So, no complaints. The voltage being supplied to the motor now is at 47 volts. Sometimes goes into 46 point something, the high 46s. So it's still pretty good. After 28 miles so far. We'll definitely go over 30 miles when we get back to our starting point. The sidewalk in this area is very wavy, and it really causes your shock, the hydraulic suspension, to really come into play. No complaints. It does absorb the shocks very, very well. It's also nice to know you have a bike that, if you need to, can go off the sidewalk onto the grass and maintain itself. So if there's a biker like the one we just passed, it's rather close to you, I wouldn't hesitate to go onto the grass. But we did fine. All right, 29 miles now. Look at that tree. Wow, they really split that one. Oh, it's two trees. One's bent one way, one's bent the other to accommodate the power wires. Interesting. They do repair this sidewalk quite often. And I know if you're going to repair a slab like this size, in front of your house, it can go up to $400. Maybe a little less, maybe $300. It depends on the person you hire. And if they're repairing these slabs that often, that's a big chunk of change for the town. And the reason they repair it isn't roots of trees, which we have a problem with. The roots lift up the sidewalks, and then you get an edge that people can trip over, so you have to repair that. Either grind it down or repair the blocks and put rebar between the blocks, which prevent one block from rising without the other. Or, as I said, you can grind the edges, which we've done. Here, the problem isn't the trees and the roots lifting it up. It's the grass cutters from the town or the county, I'm not sure, I believe it's the town, that come here, and the places they decide to go over the sidewalk to cut the grass on our right is a place that can't sustain their weight, and it breaks the sidewalk. You can see all the lighter colored pieces here. These have been repaired probably within a year. Now, a year from now, you'll see many, many chunks of sidewalk that have been broken. Here's one right there. They mark it with orange paint. And they're broken because these cutters, and why the town doesn't have designated areas. Here's a big chunk of broken sidewalk that'll have to be repaired. Why they don't have designated areas for these cutters to go over, it bewilders me. All you'd have to do is build up or put some kind of a reinforcement, and that should work fine. But not my job. Okay, we're getting very close. 29.8 miles. So in the back, I have a fairly heavy can of Fix-It. I have a chain, fairly heavy, heavier than the can of Fix-It, to chain up the bike if I stop someplace. I have a little toolkit in there. So it's a good thing I'm losing weight to compensate for the extra weight I'm carrying in the bag in the back. You can see all the lighter colored cement blocks here, and again, these have all been repaired within a year. You see other blocks that are now broken. Maybe they need to use a harder concrete. Hard to tell. So we're coming to the end of another really nice ride. I think it's safe to let my wife make a decision if she wants to go on it or not, so she'll feel safe and not have a problem with narrow bike paths or traffic. Okay, it says an hour and 50 minutes we've been traveling. We've done 30.4 miles. We'll probably get up to 31 miles for the whole trip. And it was another great trip on the Heybike Cityrun. I will send an email to their service department, which is very, very good, by the way, and ask them why I'm having this issue. With the controller turning off, or the power assist not working either with the throttle or just with the pedals. So I think what I need to do is to find out why that's happening. Easy enough fix though, just turning the controller off and on with the software on my iPhone. That works great. Right back riding again. Only happened once this trip, so that's not too bad. And that should do it. This is the place we started at. And we'll pull over here and wind this trip up. Another great one. Well, thank you, friends, for watching and listening. We hope to see you on the next video.